Hey everyone, Mr. MC here. This is a guide for Red Bull Ring with the 2016 MOTUL AUTECH GTR. Let's get this started. So in this guide we're using the 2016 Nissan MOTUL AUTECH GTR since the GTR, the 2016 one, is pretty much dominant in the Group 2 class. We're on the racing soft tires and I have the brake balance at +1 or 1 to the rear. Your first braking point is just before you reach the 100-meter board. Brake hard for a short moment, go down to 3rd gear, and ease off of the brakes as you turn in. Make sure you either decide to go around or over the yellow curb that is at the apex because you don't want to hit too much of it. Then keep the right wheels away from the yellow curb that is on the outside of the turn and fully accelerate. That turn is pretty tricky, so it'll take a couple tries before you're able to get that turn right. Your next braking point is just before the 100-meter board again. This time you're going down to 1st gear, and once you hit the apex, you want to start to feather in the throttle so you don't get too much turbo lag, because once you're pointing towards the next section of the track, you want to get on the throttle right away. Then bring yourself towards the left because your next braking point is once again before the 100-meter board. Brake on the tarmac, do not brake on the curbs. Nice and easy off of the brakes as you're turning in, and gradually get on the throttle so you can maintain full control of the car. Then bring yourself towards the right, and this time brake before you reach the 50-meter board. Brake hard for a short moment and slowly ease off of the brakes as you're turning in, taking advantage of the curbs to help with the rotation. And once you get on the track piece that is on the right, you want to use a little bit of braking, and just like the last turn, bring yourself towards the inside curbs for a bit more rotation and fully accelerate. Then bring yourself towards the left, look for the track marshals that are hanging out on the left as you want to brake just before you pass them, and use some of your braking power so you can still maintain the ability to turn. And finally, brake before the red and white area on the left ends. Brake hard for a short moment, quickly ease off the brakes and get on the throttle as soon as you can. Trust the downforce. But that's all for the lap guide. Let's go ahead and take a look at the strategies. Dude, that is such an awesome livery that I found the other day. But anyways, so we are doing 14 laps at Red Bull Ring with the Group 2 cars. And pretty much your go-to car is going to be the Nissan MOTUL AUTECH GTR, so the 2016 one, since it is just that good. Although an alternative is the 2016 Lexus RCF. But anyways, fuel is a ×2, so fuel is not an issue, but the tire wear is a ×8, so tire wear is obviously an issue. But don't forget that we have the racing soft and medium tires available for us to use, and both tires are required, so you do need to use both tire compounds so you don't get a 1-minute penalty after the race ends. And whichever tire you're starting on, just be careful as you go through your first lap, especially for the first couple of turns, because you have 2 pretty long straights coming through, so your tires are not going to be as warmed up. So you'll need to be just a little more careful as those tires are getting warmed up. But anyways, with the tire wear ×8, tire wear is kind of an issue, and with your racing soft tires, they'll be good for 6 to 8 laps, but it's going to depend on your situation because you also have to take into account the dirty air. So whenever you're 3/4 of a second behind someone, you'll be encountering their dirty air like how I am right now. And what this dirty air does, it basically gives you less downforce as you go through the faster turns, so it makes your car more understeery, which means that you'll need to either slow down or try to put in more turning input, which means that you'll be destroying your front tires. So that is something that you do want to be careful of whenever you're 3/4 of a second behind someone. But if you're under the clean air, then you can take advantage of the downforce and you'll be able to get more out of your car. And because of this dirty air issue, that's also going to be another reason why a lot of people who are basically starting not first place are going to be starting on the racing medium tires, because they want to try to make progress on the worst tire compound, fuel burn a bit, and then get to the soft tires later on where they can go a bit faster and hopefully get some clean air along the way. And if you haven't noticed, I'm actually starting on the racing medium tires this time around because I wanted to fuel burn and hopefully make the racing soft tires last a little bit longer, since the car will be lighter when I switch over to those tires. First place is on the racing soft tires, and so far it's looking like I'm able to keep up with him, although he has had to serve a couple of off-limit track penalties. So that has been helping me out a bit. And whenever I'm on the straights, that does mean that I'm catching up to him a bit because I'm under the slipstream, but then I get pushed away a bit because of the dirty air through these twistier turns. And because I want to try to get past him without actually trying to get past him, if that makes sense, I'm going to go for the undercut. So I'm still on the racing medium tires, but I'm going to pit at the end of lap 6, so I'm pretty much going 6 laps on the medium tires, and then I'll be doing 8 laps on the racing soft tires. And I think I've mentioned this already, the racing soft tires, they'll last 6 to 8 laps depending on your situation. But for the most part, you'll probably be seeing a lot of people pit at the end of lap 7, whether they're on the racing soft or medium tires. And there's actually a couple people who started on the racing medium tires because they know the situation with the dirty air, because dirty air with these high downforce cars, it's pretty brutal. So we're going to end up losing around 20 seconds. That is your pit loss, so you don't want to go for a 2-stop. This is pretty much a 1-stop race where you switch over to the tires that you haven't used yet. And as you're exiting the pit stops, just be aware of any traffic that's coming through and be careful as you approach turn 3, which is this turn, because your tires are cold, so you don't have all the grip that you need just yet. And also, yeah, traffic, you want to be careful, especially if you're going for the undercut, because some people might be pitting in, so you don't want to get into a nasty collision with them. And yeah, there's going to be quite a bit of strategy that's going to be played into this race, so you can definitely go for the undercut, especially if you're trying to avoid all the traffic, because traffic obviously slows you down. So if you're having to deal with traffic, you can't get around them, but you haven't pitted yet, you can definitely think about going for an undercut, which can potentially benefit you. But if you do go for an undercut, just make sure you take care of your tires, because once the tire wear starts to kick in, then the car becomes pretty sketchy to drive. And we'll take a quick look to see if I got the undercut done. So we're at the start of lap 9, and the person who was in first place, he is still in the pit stops. He went from soft to medium tires, and if you saw just now, he was actually exiting the pit stops. So when I started the undercut procedure, I was less than a second behind him, and now I was about 3 seconds ahead of him when he came out of the pit stops. But yeah, undercut, it can be a pretty big thing here in strategy. There's a lot of strategy that can be put into play for this race, which is actually pretty nice, especially for a race like this. But anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at places to overtake and the penalty serving zone. If you can go for an overtake through the main street, but be careful because you don't want to try to battle your way through turn 1, because turn 1 is a bit narrow. It's also really sketchy, so if you have to go too wide with other people through turn 1, then you're going to end up losing a lot of time. And this first back straight is another place where you can get the overtake done, especially with the use of slipstream. Just try to get it done before you have to brake for turn 2, or I mean turn 3. I get those turns mixed up. And here is another place to get the overtake done, and the penalty serving zone is hanging out on the second back straight, which is where we're at right now. There is another penalty serving zone, which I'll mention later, but after this second back straight, it's pretty much going to be a single file line unless someone really messes up a turn, but for the most part, you're pretty much going in a single file line. So I wouldn't suggest trying to go for any battles here unless if the car in front is on the worst tire compound and you're obviously on a better tire compound. And the final penalty serving zone is hanging out right here. And this is also the last place to get the overtake done, although it's going to be a bit more situational, so it'll depend on your situation, and you pretty much want to determine whether it's a good idea to go for a move or not. But that is pretty much it for this guide. This race I ended up getting a 19 minutes and 35 seconds, so this is a bit of a long daily race C. But anyways, that is all for me. I'm going to sign off now, so this is Mr. CA, wishing you a good race, and I'll see you in the next video.